On my journey, I've seen a lot of things, that have happened in the last quite a few years, since 2020. A lot of things that have come and gone. A lot of things that you gain, things that you lose. A lot of stuff that you know, as the materialistic world is trying to latch onto and hold on to. And not everything is for everyone at any time. There's always seasons, and seasons that can change. One of the biggest things, like wilderness seasons, you know, as I've seen here with weather events, in the last, many years as the weather's heightened, it's been quite a quite a journey to see the different situations that happen with the weather events and how people are acting towards it, and with all the different situations that arise from it, and how people are handling these type of events. I just saw here in a story in New York with a lady that I follow, and she's got tons of animals and very much in the faith, and she got rocked out with a heavy-duty hurricane here in the last couple of days, and they're still without power. And all the things that they need for wells and stuff to, you know, keep the animals and everything going. And that's a tough situation when we rely so much on the energy in the world that supplies to homes and farms, and you know and the funny part, is that, as we look at the, energy, and the energy of the earth, and so much that we're energy, and we look at how important, energy to our home to function and give our animals and ourselves and whatever else we require, everything from our phones to, our computers, everything needs some kind of charging device, or some kind of energy. And I'm still asking today where all the free energy is at this moment. Do you know where the free energy is? That's something we're supposed to have here on the earth at this moment. And I'm still waiting, and I'm still looking around for it, because in these times and these situations, it's critical for some of the things that are required. You wind up losing a lot of things. And as I've known myself personally, over all the years I've had farms and land and animals that require our, you know, assistance when the power goes out for 8, 9, 10 days. That's quite severe, with water and and you're flushing toilets and all the other things that you have, and making sure that heat lights for certain types of animals. All of these energies and everything else are, stuff that is, made up here on the earth. But our own energy at this moment is something to, desire, and that's what we are, is energy. And like with all the frequencies on the earth right now, we all get affected many, many different ways. And like our nervous system, and our heart, and gets disrupted with the energy that when things are off. And last couple weeks here, I've noticed with the energy, it's been very weird and very strange. Our Schumann resonance is something that not too many people know too much about, and I've heard a lot of different people mocking it or whatever, but it is the gauge of what shows what the frequency and of the earth is showing with all our energy as humans and animals and living creatures on the earth. And so it gives us the frequency on a daily basis to let us know, where the pulse is, and how it's operating. And it's not super tricky to understand when we see the different colors and the different charts of where this is at. So I had to come inside for a few minutes here as we were. This weather's changing, and noise and emergency vehicles and all kinds of other things that transpire. As I said, there's always a split second where a timeline or energy will change. It happens all the time, as we are beings of energy. We radiate at all different levels. The way that people have been, and are enacting, in the last several years. Most of my people have endured all kinds of different scenarios, and it's almost like, they've been moved to a side, as a way that timelines are shifting. And Amanda Grace is, the Ark Grace Ministry with her home, and then her family got rocked with a 80 to 100K winds, almost at hurricane levels, back on July the 4th. And as a power company, told her they didn't even know the storm was even coming, even though it was on radar. And nobody prepped or planned, and nobody's reacting in the fast enough response. She needs generators, and she's got a couple properties with farm for animals, all different types of animals, and they require many things, everything from heat, because it's cooled down a bit, to how their food's looked after, to basically just having all the comforts, and power and energy is something very much that we all need, we require, even though we're energy too. And I keep thinking about that too, is that, where's our free energy? Anybody seen our free energy? I'm still waiting. It'd be nice to have it instead of it being siphoned away, and when we go through these times, and like my Archangel Michael, he had all kinds of things, stripped away from him, 3 years ago, lost everything in his life. As we come to the day 7/7 portal, the last few days have been quite crazy and, obscured with many different types of energies, a lot of fake transitions and fake people, and people that don't understand, aren't listening, aren't there with a lot of things, as like in my content, doing these videos, they've been sporadic, and I'd like to be doing this every day, but at the same time, I'm also contending to a lot higher source and consciousness with all the stuff that transitions and transmissions through the good world, through many good people, and through my people. So it's quite a challenge when, content and, from videos to photos, to just downright getting power interrupters, and having all my phones and cameras and computers and everything drained, and then hours and hours of content and videos, even trying to upload the videos, put videos together, and then have them either, blocked, taken down, or, physically removed off my phone. Storage banks gone. When we lose these type of content, we lose things in our lives. Like Archangel Michael, he went through a time where he lost everything he ever had. Been taken down, blocked the whole bit. Many of us are, getting hit with all kinds of opposition. We came here for the truth, speak the truth, bring the truth, and raise the consciousness on the earth. Some things in life do happen, but the truth is that there's a bigger problem out there today, and this fake matrix reality that keeps people locked in, basically their minds are controlled, programmed. We have all kinds of equipment and technology out there that as much good could do as much harm. It's no different than the internet, which is the wild, wild west. You know, it has its goods and its bads. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. But when human life gets hit and rocked in many different ways, and like Amanda, you know, and if you get a chance, please go over there and say hello and check on her, you know, at Amanda Grace Ministries, please. You know, it's day 3 with what she's going through. Her nervous system, you know, many nervous systems watching what she's going through. You know, our nervous systems take a pounding and a beating. But as much as that there is, it also opens up another timeline and shifts and brings the abundance and the growth and the earning to have those changes and make these changes. Even though sometimes you're just on your knees praying, why did this happen? And like I said, there's many situations out here right now that are, you know, hindering what this is. As I was traveling this weekend, I'm driving up into the mountains, go spend a little bit of time in the wilderness. Many times there's seasons like wilderness seasons that we go through. There's dry seasons, seasons where everything just goes wrong. And it's just called a dried up season. You know, and 3 years ago to this day, as I was reminded as I was driving up the mountains, it's about a 3-hour drive, and this tractor trailer, either mechanical or brake failure that heated up and set the tractor trailer on fire with the transport truck. You know, and was burning away and had a load of plywood on it. So the plywood was engulfed in flames too. Driver wasn't hurt, which is the main thing. You know, just like in Amanda's situation, nobody's been hurt. But it's still nerve-wracking when these things are, and this is your livelihood or your life or your lifeline, you know. And as this tractor trailer caught on fire, of course, there's nothing there. There's bodies of water, but there's no way to extinguish the fire out. Well, there's people all over the highway standing and watching. But knowing that, you know, it takes a wind or weather change and that fire can take off. Of course, that's what was happening. It was going up the hillside. In my own experience, which to this time, 3 years ago, my own property, up country, in the town I lived in, went up in flames. And when I heard the story like Amanda's about the fact that nobody was aware, it's like in my situation, you know, and I'm always well prepared, making sure they got radios and always things happening, so you know, because things can happen in a minute. You can't always prepare for it though, but you know, you try to do the best you can with what you have. Well, I decided to go up the mountain on a stormy, windy day, knowing, and it was all over the news the night before, stating that, you know, it's going to be an 80 to 100K winds coming. And somebody in Audacity decided that they were going to go up the mountain above us and do a backburn, because individuals that have no knowledge and experience were trying to get things cleaned up in mountains with all the underbrush and with all the other things that would happen. And no thought process whatsoever. And they set the mountain on fire, doing the backburn at right about the same time this massive wind storm came through. And that was at 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. At 11:45 a.m., the town was gone. So you can imagine what it does to somebody when, and many that have now been uprooted, no one to turn to get that help in the time, having to either leave their stuff. Many stayed with the properties, which wasn't all the best, because when you're getting hit with opposition, and in the wilderness season, you live further out, you've got your freedom, you've got choices than some of these cities and these constructs that you're in. Well, no, of course, after, 11:45 that morning, the place is locked down. Nobody can get in, nobody can get out. But there was no warning system. And that's the funny part, is nobody was told. And it's only because I had, of course, the inside and understanding what was about to happen that I was able to tell as many neighbors as I could. But I needed to, we needed to move and get going. And many others were like, no, we'll just ride it out. And that's the hardest thing, especially when you got to leave the town. Many stayed. I didn't go far. But, animals and everything else, they weren't going to do good. We had to get them out. So you're leaving a lot of things, your life, your whole everything. But, basically you and your animals as first. Is get yourself to better grounds. Well, went 4 weeks with that town being locked down, and all the stories and media and things that, hearsay, thearsay. People couldn't get in, people couldn't get out. When you don't get food, you don't get the resources, you don't get the help. People are trying, but they're getting blocked by officials, by people who have no business even doing what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. It's just very weird. It's like today, into this today, as as July 4th, and we talk about freedom, the 250th day, freedom of the God's land and the people. And we got people that have no moral compass, no thought process, and what this does to people. And basically you got to be looking at, the fact of living in the truth and the now, and have the sensibility to recognize the rights from the wrongs, be authentic, See lots of people that get upset about fires, that get upset, I saw something else there today, some other that was a tree faller, somebody got really angry, and once again, he's a very godly man, and he's had his moment, where a tree took him down and hurt him really bad. But he regained, worked through his life, lost a lot, and came back. But fully aware of what, fire season, what fires can do, what, goes on in the wilderness. And this guy pretty well came right at him at the fence and screaming, yelling, and profound, and, everything else, losing his mind. Well, all these types of stories basically do so many different things to people, and when you're in these situations and these traumas, the biggest thing first is not to judge, and because you don't know what they've gone through, and judging others is what winds up getting you judged. In this last couple weeks, I've seen many different situations that, have transpired with how people have acted in relationships, old friendships, but don't understand situations that people have gone through, and the changes and what's had to transpire. As for me, as I'm here walking in the truth of showing the truth to many and to millions, about these type of technologies that are on the earth at this moment. We've got airplanes that are flying in the sky, doing weather modification. I have other airplanes that are flying in the sky using like a magnifying laser kind of system that sets situations like this. Totalitarian authority that's been brought in to go against people in general. Heavy higher constructs in telecommunications and energy companies that when situations like my situation, that they took a big lockdown. It was a tiny town, one horse town, one lane in, one lane out, or lake access, looking to put hundreds of millions of dollars worth of internet and higher transition equipment in. Some people will call it conspiracy, but we don't work on conspiracy. Conspiracy is, man-made name. But when you get in these situations and there's no communication and these things happen, your whole life is gone. And you don't know where you're going to go. You don't know where you're going to do. It's the darkest time of your life. And for me here on earth, it was one of the darkest times I've ever been on myself. To watch everything just go up. Like Michael, I lost all my content, all my pictures, everything for last, my lifetime. Gone. Pet, family, you name it. Videos. And then, like I said, we had COVID, which was another very dark time. And a lot of things were taken away there too. We've had many situations that have been dark days in the last several years that have gone against a lot of people, especially my people that have been, entangled up in spreading and showing the truth and everything and putting it out there. Attacks with all the content, all the creators at this moment. We were all people that had jobs, other types of jobs. We did other things. But when the world started going in a different direction, it wanted to go into this totalitarian corporation, we're going to take over it all and keep everybody entangled, in locked down stages of, keeping, him dumbed out and programmed, mind controlled. We have all these towers. We have the television. We have Medea. Many are still getting plugged into this. But even when I talked about the fire that happened 3 years ago, most people didn't even remember or didn't even know. But it was on the news every single day. When we get to these points, we're pretty well alone in a lot of these situations. I said to one recently, you can be in a room with 100 people and still feel alone. Not everybody in every situation is going to meld or mesh at times. Energies change. People do. You resonate on a different vibration. God's frequency is 963. The Earth frequency is 528. The Schumann resonance, for some that know, it's basically the all-around frequency of the Earth. It gives an indication of the pulse, where the Earth and the people are at on a daily basis. So lots of loss, lots of separation. You're in a town, you don't know anybody. You're in a distant area you've had to transition to, and you don't know anybody. Your life is completely changed. And it's really hard, especially now that there's so many that have gone up against what the truth is out here right now and what it was to know this. YouTube is supposed to be a great channel to be doing your content. There's many other out there. All social media at this moment in time, like I said, it's a wild, wild west. And these individuals today, and the pulse of the Earth right now, is not healthy. It's not well. And attacking people and taking all their content, like what I've got going on. Took a trip to California, down south, West Coast, over to the East Coast. Took 3 months worth. Took videos, content, everything else. Didn't even have internet in most places. But all my content went missing. Got erased. Even with having a different phone number. Just the last 2 days, stuff went missing out of my phone again. Content still getting erased. Trying to block, trying to slow down, trying to change what's to come. We can't stop what's coming. You can't change what is. This has been a long time coming. And the truth and the frequency and the energy is rising. And in some situations, as we look at the dark side or the dark event, they think that every time one of my people gets attacked, it's going to change the outcome. Well, you can't stop, because they're not going to stop. And even if our energy for a second, or our health, wealth, you try to take it away, you can take away the wealth, but it's not going to matter at the end of the day, because that's just a tool. It'll never bring the happiness. Taking away the content, it does a lot to somebody. Taking away their life of what they worked for. That's something that, cannot be, forgotten or just thrown off to the side like it's just a, piece of paper. But the strength is what's inside the people and how they come out of it and how they thrive and how they change. And they can have a moment where you feel like you fall. But the real shift is when they get back up and they bring the conscious back and they come and they rise up. And the truth will always prevail. There's a lot of people that are in situations and in constructs and working for the wrong team and touching things that they shouldn't be. It's not a fair street at this moment in time. Nobody said this was ever going to be fair. But what fair is that instead of hiding in your mother or grandmother's basement, tagging on to people, or sitting somewhere in a cafe while you're grinding numbers, taking people's stuff, trolling on my high commander's page, or attacking other people, that doesn't make you mighty. Makes you half-wit. You know, it just makes you a bunch of useless pieces of trash. And doing this to others, you'll never gain anything. Because as fast as you have it, you can lose it. Even like some people that win the lottery, they can win it in a minute and it's gone in 10 minutes. People look around for the easy fix, fast fix. Well, that's what I'm here. So I've been watching this for a very long time. All these fast fixes. Many pieces of equipment, technology have been put on the earth, like I said, good and bad. But some of the technology is using for bad. It's like in the fire. I'm still looking back for my water bomber that was put into a museum. Anybody seen my water bomber? They were put out a very long time ago and worked very well. It became a political tool that put out fires like what was on the highway. What put out in the mountain instead left to burn. The embarrassing part was the fire department that was trying to help put that fire out lost all their equipment. There are people on this earth right now that aren't doing very nice things to many people. And a lot are asleep. And there's been enough stuff put on this earth right now at this moment in time to wake up. Wake the F up. But blocking me, blocking others that are putting the truth out there, will not stop this situation. And you're not going to fare out too well with it. And some of this technology and equipment that you're using against people and using against others, this whole place is like broken right now. These computers, these phones, everything. Because there's people in there mucking around all day. There's people that have been brought to this earth thousands of times that were creators, true creators that put the stuff here for people to use. But now it's been used against radar systems that, worked in a time. People that actually put the information out instead of blocking it. Instead of playing stupid. Things like YouTube, a channel, an area to come and express and put every information out there, teaching. That's what I'm here for. That's what Archangel Michael's here for. We're here to lead and teach and show the rights and the wrongs and what you can do. And to give you the ounce of freedom that you need to breathe, to do what you need to do. Love is right out the window. unconditional love. You know, put animals on the earth. That's why it's very much means a lot to me. You know, there's even someone like Amanda's story, you know, and having animals. You know, my darkest days at the same time when lost everything in my life, lost my business, lost all my financials, lost my wealth, lost my house, lost a lot of my equipment, wound up losing a bunch of my animals, all in the same time. All with COVID, everything. It was one after the other. One just kept coming and coming and coming. Well, I'm very strong. I'm very resilient, and I always bounce back regardless. But it's making it very harder for many. This stuff keeps going on. And some of this technology has to come off. And hands need to come off. It's like CERN right now, saying they're shutting it down. They were looking for the God particle from 2012. Well, they got hit with an opposition in 2012 on it. Been trying to pull God through. That's not a good thing. You know, and we're using this type of equipment, and this is part of the frequencies, our nervous systems, our heart space, the earth. It's bouncing against the free will of people on the earth right now. We have transmission towers, 5G, 6G running. You know, we've got different groups and constructs that are involved in all this kind of stuff that want to play mad scientist, play with our energies, play with all the technologies and everything else, being that we're all energetic beings. We're waves of frequency. Just like a two-way radio, AM radio, ham radio, emergency radio, broadcast radio, you know. We have the Devil's PR Media Group, basically CBC, which pretty well runs all the Western world, feeds all their fake media. It's all radio waves that run through. But when we get interrupted, we have interrupters coming through us. And we're like a filter. And we're taking on some of these energies. This is what happens. But when the collective is in a lower energy state of consciousness, they get led into things, and they look at the things completely different, or they don't look at it all, or they don't even see it. And that's why I said at this point here, some technology that was put on the earth that many built, many good people have come and gone and left it here for others, but now they're in the wrong hands. The old saying is the meek will inherit the earth. But there's a meaning to it, and it doesn't just mean that Yahoo and whoever is going to inherit it. The ones that are patient, you know, skillful, joyful, you know, and have a conscious level on them, and have risen up enough to know the rights from the wrongs and the truth, will be the next stewards and leaders to help with the transition of the earth. But we're not quite there yet, because every time I turn around, there's more and more. And I see what's going on all the time in the frequency and the pulse of the earth, and what's happening with the technology and how it's still being used, or how it's being used against, or how it's being taken down, you know, interrupted, or interrupting people and interrupting you. We need to find a greater path many solutions on some of this technology and some of the things that are happening that are affecting people. You know, because like I said, Earth isn't well. A lot of people aren't well. July is going to be a month of something to see. The people themselves aren't right at this moment. Jobs, financials, still ones out there in the bread and circus of feeding, you know, information to the ones that are asleep or just don't care to acknowledge what's going on. Doesn't concern them. Yourself got to find your inner peace and your inner self and keep thriving, keep vibing, you know, and know that there's always a greater plan, and to find your faith in your conscious level. You know, that's what I'm here for. His biggest thing is the consciousness and the teaching of what it is to find the freedom and find your way out of these situations. I know it's hard because we all rely on a lot of these things still, and we should be able to. But the acknowledgement is to keep, you know, making it aware out there. But, you know, I look at the relationship levels at this moment in time with men and women. Well, there's been a big segregation. The modern day woman is not there anymore. She's gone in a different direction. The modern day male, beta boy, basically is in a completely different. Love is off the table at most, you know, junctions at this, you know, statures. They're off there, you know, on the content of the world, doing whatever they're doing, still living in the flam gam, you know, simp, doing all kinds of things, you know, for the likes and the views. And meanwhile, my channels and many other channels, we're barely getting any likes. And they're just losing themselves inside a deep hole and an endless system that doesn't work. You know, it's many relationships and things, but having the right relationship, the design on the earth in the last many years was against, you know, the proper, true, you know, connection. It's gone. You know, I put dogs on the earth to show cats what they came down here for. Came here to show that, you know, the unconditional love. I know there's other dogs and cats and they get a little upset and hurt sometimes too, and hurt people. I get that, but that's frequency and energy. And once again, that's, you know, the rights and wrongs that we show, just like in the universe. Universe is yes and no, depending on the situations. You know, and same with men and women. Wrong connections, wrong frequencies, get the wrong results. The ones that are supposed to be together are far from it. Most of the chosen, star seeds, Hopis, warriors, they're all on their own and aren't even connecting because of the frequencies on the earth right now. And the frequencies are so dirty and so all over the place because, you know, since 2020, there's supposed to be a massive rise. But now I got many people saying it's time to repent. You know, because the frequencies didn't rise, it keeps lowering. This is why with like things like CERN and these other energy forces that are interrupting the free will of people to make the common sense and the decision, and it's making it hard. But it's an energy fence, secondary matrix from the original matrix that keeps getting put up around you. never was going to be easy to get out of a lot of this, but I'm really starstruck at this moment about what I've witnessed. And like you said, in the last few weeks, the weird, strange energy and the way that people are acting and aren't acting. Still looking at the loop, still looking at the circle, still, looking just to get back into the same old. Don't understand what happened in other situations. Don't want to see the trees past the forest at the moment. Just think that everybody should get back to what it is. Get back to the original, back to business as usual. Well, there is no business as usual. The timelines have shifted so many times and jumped. And every time we try to use some other form of technology against what's happening consciously, it's going to cause a rift, and it's going to cause an interrupter, and things are going to get messy. And that's why this awareness and the truth is to understand. And when we start arising our own conscious, going it's inner work, finding your heart, finding what you truly are, breaking out, finding that job that resonates with you, what you create. Sometimes you got to go back to the childlike, back to the inner child, and ask what the original was of you. That's the only way you're going back to original right now. But other than that, it's like to find out, where you find your own fit. But many have gotten, taken away from the stuff that, you like to do. So we have to get creative sometimes. It's just like me. I was in the excavation construction world for many years. But the doors closed. So I became a content creator. It was trying to stop me from that. But that's what keeps happening. And sometimes we have to keep shifting and changing and working, and being strategic in our own moves with what we do. But that is what the consciousness and being aware, and being awake, and speaking the truth and knowing the truth. And you just keep going, even though it's coming at you at 100 miles a minute sometimes. But you've got to make the steps. You got to get out of the fear, because the fear isn't going to help you. And they're always going to look to try to put you into the fear. That's the biggest thing about keeping the lower consciousness. You need to change your own and know that there's always going to be something that does come. But the more you're awake, and the more you're aware in consciousness, the more you can see it coming. But it's hard when you're expecting others to be on that same frequency and that same energy and that same path. And it doesn't always work. You've got to find that peace. I think I got something here that I can, kind of put into perspective a little on what I had here with the bit of content that keeps going away. How do you find your peace? You don't find your peace. You choose it by what you ignore, by what you release, by what you stay giving to the energy, to that, the shift in a different but higher consciousness of new reality. And it means basically where you are driving that energy and how much energy you are actually feeding or taking away from, depending on the situation. But knowing your clairs, knowing your conscious being, and your where and your heart will guide you. And being in and inner and asking will give you that peace and inner peace. Sometimes you have to lose things to have your peace, to regain your own identity and find your heart space to be unconditional love of love for you. And that's basically like your inner child is showing the love, and the love that others can't show you at times. And it's hard sometimes to be standing on your own 2 feet, but you came into the world by yourself. And there's always people around, but it's you that were given everything but the heartbeat and the life to make the decisions and the conscious decisions to move and navigate through life. Have lost the game to gain the freedom, clarity, peace from timelines. So many frequencies work and give you peace. Men and women in your life have to give you that peace, have to respect your energy to get the respect to have those type of people in your life. Friends and family, men and women have to bring the peace for there to be peace when you have a connection. And if you don't feel that, you have to find and take your peace. And just know, yes, no. If you choose to bow in or you choose to bow out. And as you raise your consciousness, you will know where you put that energy, where you spread the peace, where you spread the joy, and whether you do or you hold it with you and keep your peace and keep loving. Because at the end of the day, you will shine brighter and it will move things away from you and give you more freedom and more clarity to find you and be the real you. So find out who you are and take the paths that resonate, and know that sometimes when you do lose something or you go through a trying time or a really dark time in your life, know that there is a light and there is a path. And sometimes what we have to lose to gain is usually a better path. So, who will you be? And where will you be when everything else is falling around you? Have yourself a blessed, wonderful day, experiencing, living life to the fullest, and finding your way out of the matrix, secondary matrix, raising your conscious, be in the truth, speak the truth, and don't worry about what others have got to say, because they shouldn't be judging in the first place. And be that one with many others, and know that you're not alone when it comes time. To many others that are working along and also sharing the truth. And if it's resonating with you, then that's where it needs to be. Like I said, have a blessed, wonderful day. Know that I love you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.